Is Gary Gensler setting up for his exit today? We're going to be breaking down a lot of things that maybe Gary Gensler doing a little trolling, or is it real? We'll break it down. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. I want to thank our sponsor today, and that is iTrust Capital. You guys are looking at long-term holding of your crypto. You can do that in an IRA. I know it's past the tax date, but guess what? Now you get a chance to be able to maximize your investment in your IRAs for 2024. Make sure and check out iTrust Capital. And of course, you can do that with Bitcoin, Ethereum, even gold and silver. All you have to do is just go over to itrustcapital.com. Make sure and use our link down below. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward. So check it out. Let's get into a couple of things. Gary Gensler put out a post, and I think crypto Twitter pretty much lost it in this one tweet, which is not exactly what you might think it might be. But it's been an honor to serve as the SEC Gov chair. Over the past 3 years, I've seen firsthand how the incredible staff at the SEC serve investors and issuers alike. You know, I look at it when I heard this news, I'm like, he's the ultimate troll, and he's very manipulative in how he goes about his business, especially on Twitter. But there may be some things here that actually Gary Gensler is setting up for. Is things starting to get a little too hot in the kitchen for Gensler at the SEC? I want to go to this first clip. This will break down some interesting points on both Elizabeth Warren, who wants to ban crypto. Remember, she's pretty much pulling the strings here, but listen in.
North Korea is using crypto to steal money, evade sanctions, and to fund its nuclear weapons program. You know, that is a lot of weapons that North Korea is able to build and fire off, paid for by crypto crime. And the threat is not letting up. Just last week, in a span of 2 days, North Korea laundered more than $23 million worth of crypto that it stole. General LaCamera, I think you have some experience with this crypto scam. Would you be willing to talk about it for just a minute?
Thanks, Senator. Not necessarily with crypto scamming me personally, but I do have some experience with being swatted and the number of social media impersonations that are out there. My face has been used for scamming.
Yeah. So General LaCamera, would making it more difficult for criminals and rogue states to use crypto to steal and to launder funds strengthen our national security?
Yeah, it'd be a qualified yes, but yes.
Yes. Okay, I'll take yes. Admiral Aquilino, do you agree with that?
I do, Senator. I have over 200 fake websites put out on me every month, of which many are soliciting dollars from people who can be fooled.
Yeah. I've got a bipartisan bill, Republicans and Democrats, with 20 senators that would put a stop to it. I think it is time to pass this bill.
So as you can see, Warren continuing her round of FUD, which, as we all know, that is completely false, has been proven time in and time again on where crypto is really being used in terms of nefarious actions, most of which is being used by fiat. But in that clip, didn't you kind of get a little lost there? Because they were talking more about deep fakes and things of that nature. Have nothing to do with crypto, but I guess that doesn't really matter when it comes to Warren. But I want to go to another clip. This is her talking about Validators funding Iran. This is even better. Listen in.
So if I wanted to send $1,000 worth of crypto to you, Mr. Secretary, is it possible that when I just send it, to send this, that Iran could be our validator?
So under a transaction like that is certainly possible.
Does that mean more money would likely end up in Iran's pockets?
Okay, well, maybe somebody needs to kind of explain how validators work, but this is also maybe where the line is being drawn by Gary Gensler, because Gensler has been on record before talking about DeFi, and he goes into it quite a bit, in fact, in a 2018 clip that we pulled around decentralized finance. Listen in.
Decentralized exchanges. Kelly and I don't really need Coinbase to trade if there's some application that can find each of us and we can find each other. Decentralized exchanges do not have any custody function. There's one developer, there's one set of computer technologists, but you can actually, if you wish, put that algorithm out and just say, that was a fun project. I'm a computer scientist at MIT, and just put it out there, and Kelly and I could find each other. And the SEC just brought their first legal action last week against a decentralized exchange, and it was in essence against the software developers. Now there's the First Amendment. Don't get me wrong, there is clearly a freedom of speech and freedom of expression in this country. And it's interesting that in the last week, the SEC, they settled. It was sort of a thing where, and it's the first action the Securities and Exchange Commission has brought against any crypto exchange. Why they picked it decentralized to be their first, that's a story I don't know, but they did.
Interestingly enough, as you guys know, the SEC launched their onslaught against another decentralized exchange, obviously that being Uniswap, which of course unveiled its new order functionality with a zero gas cost, which is another reason that we're seeing DeFi continuing to amp up and trump the traditional finance system, which I think goes back to the whole scenario around what's happening with Warren and her initiative around kind of the future of where banking is going, because we do know and understand that traditional finance is in a huge state of flux and most likely is going to be the case for quite some time. All right, so where does this leave Gensler? Because this goes into a couple other points that he is making, and he's made before in those, and as you saw that last clip, that was in 2018 of Gensler basically saying DeFi is kind of the wrong place to be looking. Here's another one where Gary Gensler was trying to predict the future. Listen in.
There's a bunch of exchanges here in the US that will register. Securities and Exchange Commission can do look, we're not going to fine you. We're not going to give you penalties for the past. Can you just come into compliance in the next 12 to 18 months? That's probably what's going to happen. I think that at some point in time, there will be fines and penalties. But I think in the US context, they'll bring a half a dozen or 8 or 10 into regulation, and then they'll bring down a heavier footprint, bring down the hammer, if you wish, in 2019 or 2020. I don't think that's going to be in 2018. Kelly.
All right, so he clearly was saying, and this is before obviously he's with the SEC, and the opportunity was there that they thought this would be more likely the course of action. And of course, as we know, all of the major exchanges have pretty much begged the SEC to try to get under regulatory. The problem is there's no real path to registration. No real path to legalization of them, at least in the format of the SEC and the way they see things. Now, we go into another clip here that is Senator Nunn talking about the abuse of power of the SEC. This goes a little bit deeper on this. Listen in.
And it's just that one agency, one that the SEC has been blasted for its gross overregulation in this environment. Just bad actors, broad sweeping rules that do not allow our economy to flourish. In fact, in his world, everyone is a violator. It's just a matter of finding the right regulation to hold them accountable. The federal judge sanctioned the SEC's, what they identify in this regulation as a gross abuse of power, but beyond that, ultimately paid a price to shut down companies that the SEC has pushed away, shut down other companies here in America and pushed them overseas. This level of fear-mongering is frightening. Can you explain why the SEC's approach to rulemaking is chilling innovation or may even hurt technologies for decades to come?
This approach to regulation is absolutely the wrong one. Statements on AI, statements on crypto, all of these are making business environments in the United States much more uncertain, if not downright hostile. Other countries, the European Union, many in the Middle East, many in the Far East, are creating regulatory systems for crypto that are much more friendly and workable, and at the very least are more certain.
So as you can see, I mean, Gensler's got things coming at him from all angles. Not only the losses that he's taken in court, now we're dealing with us crossing, the SEC crossing the line on DeFi. So maybe has he drawn the line? Is this kind of the end of the road for Gensler saying, this is too many losses, we're going into waters I cannot win, and we've got a lot of pressure from Congress, which is all over me for overreach already. And now we got small business coming in and telling us they're moving outside the United States to create kind of an innovation glut that we could potentially have here in the United States around some of the fastest moving tech in the space, whether you look at AI, crypto, blockchain, all that kind of going in that direction. Even if you look at the clip, this was done on Forbes. This is where we pulled the clip. This was so hilarious. Right here, I'm going to kind of zoom in on this right here. This is Forbes talking about that now you can, of course, get early access to select products, including NFT drops. Yeah, that's right, Forbes, NFT drops. So I guess what you've got here is a complete resurrection, I think, of how tech is going to be moving forward. The SEC has said, okay, we've overreached this. We've probably had some bad moves. Gensler saying, I don't want to lose anymore. I'm continuing to get my you-know-what handed to me. And I think he's maybe drawing the line and starting to paint a little bit of a picture. Maybe so, or maybe he's just the ultimate troll. We'll see how this all plays out. I want to go to a clip with Hester Peirce versus Gensler. Listen in.
You're worried about the message of scaring off investors, and with the best of intentions, your colleagues might be doing that right now, regardless of the investment. Crypto is just another example. But what's your big, anxiety?
One thing our staff has historically done is they work with them to help them understand how the rules apply. Now that's much more difficult. And it's not because the staff doesn't have the knowledge. We have a wonderful staff. It's because they're getting a message from the commission, of which I'm one. They're getting the message from the commission that we shouldn't be providing that kind of help to work through these things. I think that's been very manifest in the crypto area, but it's not only limited to that. Even in traditional finance, in the area of mutual funds and exchange-traded funds, people want to come in and do new things, and it's very hard for them to do that right now.
That's only gotten worse, Commissioner.
It has, and I think we can turn that around, right? Because we can open the doors back up. We can start talking to people. We can have public roundtables.
You're
but
trying to open it up, but that's not happening, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so the point there, internal strife at all-time high. You've got situations now, I think Gensler's trying to figure out, how do I save face? What about my career? All those kind of things that start playing into this. I wonder who would be the potential for that slot, because I don't think Peirce would want to take that on because of all the baggage that's going to be on the SEC now, mainly to go out and prove all these cases, then lose to them, then have to deal with a president that's very upset about this overreach. All those kind of things that play into, I think, the future of where this is going. All right, so we've got a clip here that is from the Unchained podcast that had some lawyers talking about why the SEC subpoenaed the ETH Foundation. Gives a little bit of a different perspective. Listen in.
The then chair, Jay Clayton, made similar statements when he was the chair. Gensler comes in, and by the way, Gary Gensler, according to the media, before becoming the chair of the SEC, repeatedly said, and I think there's a video of him saying it, that ETH is not a security. Futures products have been approved based on ETH and on the assumption that ETH is a commodity. The SEC, when they've sued multiple exchanges, Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, all of those exchanges have long traded ETH, and the SEC didn't allege ETH as one of the predicate securities for their charges. So I think it would be utterly ridiculous at this point for the SEC to bring a case alleging ETH as a security. I think also it's important to note the timing. The shift to proof of stake happened like almost 2 years ago. So why now? In January, the SEC begrudgingly approved the listing of spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now there are a bunch of applications to list spot ETH ETFs. And it is not inconceivable that the reason we're seeing activity right now isn't really because the SEC is going to make a case against the ETH Foundation, but rather they are using that as a pretext to collect evidence that could be helpful to them in a litigation regarding whether or not there should be an approval for spot ETH ETFs.
Wow. Okay. On the surface, they're maybe targeting the Ethereum Foundation, but they're doing that because they are anticipating they'll have to defend themselves in court against a case about Ether ETFs. Is that what you're saying? Oh, wow.
All right, so some interesting points there. Timing, of course, we all understand why that is being done. This is clearly both from a regulatory standpoint, a political landscape, and of course, the Bitcoin ETF being so successful, which I think in a way, probably the SEC was hoping that wouldn't happen. Now it has. And now they're faced with dealing with an ETH lawsuit, most likely that they're going to lose. So I can understand how this could play out of why this timing was done at this particular juncture. All right, so I want to go to another tweet right here. This, of course, is Senator Cynthia Lummis. She was tweeting out there that her and Gillibrand are now introducing the most controversial. We showed this the other day, but the stablecoin bill to date, this is now out there. Look at the size of that thing, man. That thing is thick. So the good news is it has hit. I've got a little bit of a clip of them explaining it, and then there's some interesting points after that. So stick around, but listen in.
And the first, and I think the most important piece of this legislation, is to take stablecoin and put it into a proper regulatory framework so that we can have consumer protection, we can have transparency, accountability, and we can have certainty.
Yeah, the worst thing we could do if stablecoins are being misused around the world is to step away and not regulate them. The whole purpose of this bill is to protect consumers while we acknowledge the existence and use of stablecoins. And furthermore, Senator Gillibrand has included some language from the FDIC that in the event there were an insolvency or a failure, a conservatorship or a receivership could be set up. So it's contemplated that even with our one-to-one reserves that we require and our decision not to allow algorithmic stablecoins, if something did fail, we have that safety valve of the FDIC receivership language.
We also require that if a stablecoin is issued, that it's done by its own entity. It has to be a subsidiary, right. It has to be walled off, and it can have no commingling of funds with other assets.
Yeah, separately custody is important.
Yeah, so they get it. They understand what's going on with stablecoins. This, of course, does affect the SEC if this does come into play, because it now creates a regulatory framework that affects the SEC in many different ways. This article right here, Ethereum wins big during the stablecoin, U.S. stablecoin draft bill. So they elaborate in this article a little bit on the legislation, opens floodgates for U.S. banks to obtain stablecoin license and for certain private companies to issue up to $10 billion in stablecoins without a license. So that changes the game quickly. Interesting note here is, in most cases, we've kind of thought as Elizabeth Warren as very pro-banking. I think she's a little bit more pro-tech, but there is a lot of banking that could be aligned in here. But I think the banks are really, I think they're going to be very favorable of this thing because it's really playing right into their game. I want to go further into this because this is interesting right here. This is Gensler. I'm going to zoom in on that for you guys. Today is the last day to submit policy recommendations in advance of the SEC Small Business Forum. This is an opportunity for people in small business to maybe go in and explain why they think stablecoins, settlement, the ability of DeFi, alternative finance, all the things and benefits that it represents, much less the companies that are in the technology side, the collectible side, the content creator side, all of those could be submitting in this forum right here. This is a clip explaining a little bit more about it.
Stacey Bowers, thank you for joining us in January as the new director of the Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation. And as you discuss the various topics over the next 3 days, from early stage stories to investing in early stage companies to accessing the public markets, please share your ideas and policy recommendations with us. And this forum will inform us, but also inform a report that we will be delivering to Congress. Further, your perspective may help the Commission consider policies to benefit small businesses.
All right, so everybody should go over to this website over on the SEC website. We'll leave a link in the description and submit your recommendations. You know, this could be everything from small business, restaurants, you name it out there. If you're dealing with any kind of credit card fees, you're dealing with scenarios that you could utilize crypto in all sorts of ways to lower the cost of your own business, this is your chance to be able to do this on the recommendations for this new forum that they've got going. So still more on really what the SEC is trying to do and really kind of the future of Mr. Gensler. This is another scenario that's playing out right now, and this, of course, is John Deaton, who has surpassed Elizabeth Warren in early fundraising. If you guys aren't aware, Deaton, of course, is one of the attorneys that represented a lot of the XRP holders in the class action suit, which, of course, we won. And Deaton is going head-to-head with Senator Warren, and in fundraising, he's doing a pretty good job because he's getting a lot of small business presentation. Here's Chris Larson, Garlinghouse. They're doing what they can from a small business aspect because I don't think there is a PAC yet. We'll see how that turns out. But you've got Cameron, Tyler Winklevoss in here. You also have Anthony Scaramucci. There's Charles Hoskinson, Kraken co-founder, Jesse Powell. These are all small investments, but I think this is going to garner up an opportunity of a huge war chest coming in from small investment. And it's possible he could be able to do this without a PAC. So this will be one to watch for sure. So if you're not following Mr. Deaton, make sure and follow him out there on X because he's doing a good job, and I think this is a good play. Here's an article from The Verge. This, of course, is Senator Warren proposing breaking up Amazon, Google, Facebook, all of that. And remember, Warren's proposal did not mention, you guessed it, Apple. Now, there are some reasons for that. As we all know, Elizabeth Warren raised 5 times as much money from big tech as Joe Biden did. So when you follow the rabbit hole a little bit, now you go down to where she's raising that from, and you start to see it. Harvard, Google, MIT, Apple, and off we go. So you understand where the narratives are going. We understand this as well. I think the key here is you guys need to get behind all your local representatives, understand, and make your voices heard. There's ways to do that just with simple emails. Use AI, get out there, be able to start pelting your own representatives to represent you in terms of your crypto position. If you guys are not tuned in to the Diamond Circle, get in right now. It's crazy. It's very easy to get into, and all you have to do is click the link down below. And of course, if you want to catch me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.